Well, I call that learning how to blend in.
Right, exactly.
And I describe to people what being in a recording studio is like. So you're playing, and 10 people are scrutinizing every last little thing that you
every
do.
Every note that you play.
Every note that you play,
Yeah.
and it's got to be perfect. So you have to be willing to be exposed.
Right.
You have to be willing to have 10 people say to you, I think you should play the snare drum this way, or I don't really like the way you played the cymbal, or why don't you try a little this way?
Right.
And you can't take it personally. You just have to say, okay, let's try it that way,
Yeah.
and then try to make it sound good. And you have to own it,
Right.
even though it's somebody else's idea. You have to own it and play it.
Right.
So you got to be a little bit egoless. At the same time, you got to put yourself forward, and you got to blend in with everybody else. And you got to be. This is kind of vulnerability to being a musician.
I was also going to say that I spent about 12 years in the corporate world also as a music director in a production company, and I think that my early musical training, all my musical training, I always had an easy time with that, and I know. And I had experiences where people did not have an easy time with that, or somebody had to change what they were doing in order to accommodate whatever was taking place, and it upset them, and they weren't good at it, and they weren't able to change. And I think that's something you learn early.
Yes,
and
right.
I'm sure I learned that early, and that because I had to fit my cello playing or my guitar playing or whatever, my bass playing, into what was taking place overall. And I think that is a really important lesson to learn. And I think, how did we learn it? We learned it in school. We learned it in bands. We learned it from teachers.